About time for another Coach Life. We had a rough weekend. The oppressive forces were raging. Nasty, nasty. Dirty, cheating, just pure force. It was nasty. But let's not go there. Let's go somewhere better. Let's have ourselves a run. 2030. Let's do 2030. 7 years from now. My 2030 predictions. There will be a few new classes. Classism will be illuminated in a healthy but painful for some way. What I mean by that is a lot of jobs that were supposed to be replaced by computers and AI over the last 10 years, only a small percentage of them were actually replaced in any tangible fashion. They were replaced on the back end or something like that. In the next 3 years, millions of jobs will be replaced by AI. It could today, if your job is to produce content that is for a larger group to distribute, you're no longer necessary. AI can do that. If your job is to edit content, you might have a few years, but most people think of content, when they hear content, they think social media. I'm talking about content, like books, websites, copy, digital media, Photoshop, photography, all of that. All of that cooked. It could be cooked this year. I mean, chatbot. Look it up. I'm not making it up. Jordan Peterson just did a video where he said, write a book, he has his 12 rules for whatever. He said, write a 13th rule in Jordan Peterson style with some Shakespearean twists and yada, yada. The joint was bad. He was like, why would I even write? They killed it. They did it. It's done. So I say that to say that will, in my perception, that's a good thing, because it can alleviate some of our obsession with ideas. It can let us say, okay, all the stuff that felt like it was novel, when we know it's not novel, it can be handled elsewhere. Now, mind you, it takes diligence to make sure that this doesn't get carried away, because this is some scary stuff in the first place. But this is like a toddler, just barely learned. Like, this thing is gonna start running. It's gonna start dunking on, like, you know what I'm saying? So you gotta really, I'm just saying the first level implications of it. It's gonna clip a lot of jobs, which will then allow, hopefully, if people, okay, so a few things happening at the same time. It's going to clip a lot of jobs, but it's going to also create a few other classes. You're going to have people who understand and can harness the power of this, similar to navigators, seafaring people when everyone else was terrified of the ocean. Okay, so those people can literally discover new ways, new lands, new dimensions. So people who are super tapped into chat by AI right now, they know the implications. They've envisioned 2030. They've envisioned 2050. They're going to be able to navigate. 2030 predictions, millions of jobs get lost, but it's going to create a couple more classes. It's going to illuminate classism. Therefore, the hoarders at the top will no longer be allowed to hoard. It just makes zero sense. It's not healthy for anyone. So luckily, the new classes will help, and then you'll have classes based off of interest, trade, rather than just how much money you have. Like right now, classism means upper class, middle class, lower class. That's not helping anyone. Classes should be based off of interests. And as much as I don't buy into the TikTok thing, it's a better form of social media because it's based off interests, not just who you know. It's tribal, it's weird, the old stuff. So anyways, that being said, 2030 predictions, couple new classes, classism gets illuminated. Hopefully it can take a nice little hit and we can all get to a point where we just see we're all interconnected anyways. Message, I don't know how, but the bridge between African Americans, Black people, Afro-Caribbean, Afro-Mexican people, and Africa will become hyper-connective, super fruitful. Africa will be restored. Not restored. Africa has always been the greatest continent, country, confusion, ball, planet thing ever. But the point I'm trying to make about Africa is the excellence of Africa will be illuminated rather than like the myth that we've all had to ingest for centuries of like people running around with spears, trying to fight off lions with sticks. Although some of that is dead true. You also the genetic diversity within Africa is the genetic diversity in the world. So in other words, we all came from Africa and then we dispersed from there. So as Neil deGrasse Tyson said, where do you have the tallest people? Africa. Where do you have the shortest people? Africa. They actually it's not even that far, they're not even that far apart. The pygmy and, I forget the name of the super tall folks. Where do you have the dumbest people? Africa. Where do you have the smartest? Africa. Actually, it's a Nigerian, it's not Igbo. Anyways, they do better than everyone in the standardized tests. European, it doesn't matter. They do better than everyone. So the genetic diversity in Africa will be also the natural resources, the history of the exploitation of Africa will become something that actually unites us once the truth comes to light. So 2030 predictions, classism takes a hit, new classes develop based off of interest, Africa is elevated to her proper position. What else? 2030 fusion, nuclear fusion, fusion will begin test trials, and the prospect of renewable energy will disrupt markets, but it'll take some time for it to. The thing is, you can't just. We've fired 197 lasers and had the event of fusion. Fantastic. We still have to learn how to harness it. We still have to learn how to scale it. We still have to learn how to throttle it. So it's a process. Let's see. We will see our first trillionaire or trillionaires by 2030. I'm predicting it. Trillionaire. I might be it. So 2030. More classes, classism taking a hit, Africa elevation, trillionaire, fusion, fusion getting there. What else? 2030. You gotta remember, that's only in 7 years. Oh yeah, the UN will align with another UN-esque organization, which will actually do a lot of this work because the UN is so bureaucratically bloated that it might implode. So the only way it will be able to survive is to align with another organization that's actually interested in doing the work, which is righteous. And that organization will have to be more powerful, more flexible, and so they would have to be fueled by a different kind of energy. Because I honestly I like the idea of the UN and what it stands for, and I'm moved by many of the people who align with the UN. But anytime you have uh, strange bedfellows, things become complicated to the point where you can't actually sustain momentum when there's an actual confrontation. So when tested, which the UN will be tested, uh, it might revert back to old ways rather than doing what is righteous. And we need a new group to do that. And I haven't seen any organizations on the horizon just yet who are strong and flexible enough to deal with today's dynamic nature. But I think I have seen in the youth the efficient, it's like a efficient rage, right? So you have to know, you have to feel, you have to be open enough to feel when something like, hey, this is wrong. You have to recognize injustice. And then you have to be organized enough to say, okay, how do we want to address this? Like, you have to feel the rage, and then you have to direct it. And then you have to be very intelligent with how you direct it, because we're still dealing with archaic energies that don't understand that we're all connected, and what helps the greater good helps us. So, for example, we're still dealing with people who, like our next door neighbors here at the school. This used to be, they're right there, right? It used to be United Cerebral Palsy Center. And every day, the students would pass, folks in wheelchairs, helmets, just doing the best they can with their life scenario, paintings from it just, it does something to you. It grounds you in a way where, and the people, specifically the people who needed the facility and the people who worked in the facility. I mean, I'm talking about angels, right? So that's what it was for my entire time here. And towards the end of my, let's call it tenure, there was a lot of construction because the UCP left. They were, I don't know the exact details, but you could imagine. And the Toll Brothers built a luxury real estate unit, multi-million-dollar units. So instead of the Foundation, United Cerebral Palsy Foundation, apologies, you have like doctors and hipster rich people. So they send an email out talking about, can you guys control the noise and the activity of your students during lunch and something. And it's like, there was some very colorful back and forth, hilarious stuff. But just think energetically in a neighborhood, in a community, when you take out a public service to those in need and you replace rich people. Think what it does. Now, I'm not saying these rich people are bad. I mean, it's obviously some doctors, and who knows? They might be angels themselves. But their first engagement with the community is an email asking for change, which they're like, you're the one who created the change. We're doing what we've been doing. We had to deal with all that construction while they were building your unit. I understand they bought like some speakers in the auditorium or something. Money. but it's about community, right? So have you ever tried to get 700 students to be quiet for the rich people? You think that makes sense? A security? They should get a security guard or something. But anyways, this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about for the 2030 predictions. Rather than us having to house this narrative and have conversations internally, we can illuminate it and say, well, look at this actual thing. Like, what is the actual issue here? And we can have many schools with the same scenario focused on tackling this one. But how do we fix this problem? This is clearly ridiculous. This goes back to our game on Saturday, actually. How do we fix? Do we want to reward violence in lieu of gamesmanship? And if so, like, why? And is it ironic that we have violence in lieu of gamesmanship with an all-white team and an all-white parents that already caused problems at another school because for, I don't know, whatever reason, they weren't that bad, but it's just like triggering. So, all right. That's my coach life. That's my 2030 predictions I got to get to. So I hope y'all have a blessed one. Oh, yeah, C sent me a text yesterday tapping in, and we was just like figuring out a little bit of life real quick, end of the day type of vibe. So shout out to C and everybody that's doing the best they can right now, what they got. I promise you, we right. Stay steady, stay low. All right, but when it's time, you gotta speak your truth. So, Coach Life.